Welcome to Scaling for Success. Thank you for joining us for this video. Katrina, customer experience strategist. I love it. This is really important when we talk about operations to make sure that we're creating those raving fans. Can you just do a little intro about you, and then we're going to hop into today's topic about metrics and customer experience.
So I'm Katrina Scarlett, founder of Scarlett and Co, customer experience company, and we support authors and coaches with improving and expanding their customer experience efforts so that they can improve client retention, satisfaction, expand monetization efforts, and then of course, grow profit margin, revenue, and have greater impact in the world.
Which I love.
Me too.
All of those things are
So
super
passionate.
important. Business owners like that too.
Yes.
So we were talking just before this, and I would love to hear about the top 5 metrics that you use in customer experience. And then I know you're going to tell us a little bit about how that affects you when you pull that lever, how that affects the business from profitability, customer experience, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I love to get nerdy because I'm a numbers girl. So the first one I will quickly just say there are a lot of metrics out there that you can be measuring, right? And you know this in operations, right? So many KPIs out there. There are 5 that I specifically advocate for to fall under like the customer experience umbrella. So the CX metrics that I advocate for. The first is your CSAT, so customer satisfaction score. This is probably one of the most well-known ones, right? And it's basically how much do people enjoy working with us, right? And what I will say too on this one, because it kind of pertains to the others as well, is that when you're thinking of these metrics, it's not always just the business in totality. So you can be scaling these metrics down to specific programs. So you could have a customer satisfaction score for your membership, for your mastermind. And then you could also have a customer satisfaction score for your overarching business, depending on how you are collecting data, right? So if you send out maybe a 6-month survey to your members, well, that information is very specific to the membership experience. So you could put those metrics connected to the membership. But then you could also have a feedback form that you send to people that's about your entire business. And again, this is dependent on the business model, but just keep that in mind too. It doesn't necessarily, it's not always overarching business. Sometimes you can actually scale it down even like more niche to specific programs or products that you have.
I like this one because you can actually scale it to the person who's delivering the service as well.
100%.
And so there's different ways to look at that CSAT number and go, which one of these is the most useful, most beneficial? And I know in the last video, we talked about regularly reviewing things. This is another one of those you want to regularly look at. Does the way we measure this, is it the best use of our time and energy to calculate that score? Right. And is it, are we then actually doing something with the number?
Right. Exactly. Like, and you also have to think of it in contrast to the other metrics and the metrics of the same category. So for example, if I have a membership and I measure the satisfaction score of the membership, and in a CSAT score is typically on a sliding scale. So it's something like, from 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, how much did you love? Like, how much do you love the membership? But not the best worded question off the cuff, but you know what I mean? Sliding scale, usually 1 to 10, 10 being extremely amazing. So if I have a membership where my satisfaction score is like 7.2, which would be kind of meh, but my business's satisfaction score is like 9.2, it tells me there's opportunity in my membership that we're not doing all we can to improve satisfaction, right? Something's amiss because we should have everything ideally at the height of where the whole business is from a satisfaction point, right? So we can start to see, and like you said, with individual people, maybe we have a team of 5 customer service reps who handle our chat support, right? And we could be measuring satisfaction of all of those people. And maybe there's one that's not holding up to the same benchmark as everybody else, right? So there's ways that we can use that information in contrast to the other metrics of the same nature and of the other areas. So the second is customer effort score. So this is your CES. This one is probably the one that is least talked about, in my opinion. And this goes back to the conversations we had in the previous 2 videos about effort and reducing friction and barriers for customers. Number one desire of customers is ease of doing business, the convenience, or the level of convenience it is to do business with you. So your effort score is when you get questions like, how easy was it for you to place your purchase on our website? That's a CES question. They're wanting to know if it was easy or difficult for you to take the action that you needed to take, right? So understanding how easy do we make it to do business with us? We want that score to be a really good one in the sense of everyone thinks we're really easy, right? We don't want it to be full of barriers and friction. So if we have a poor CES score, we know we've got areas that we need to audit to figure out what barriers and frictions we can remove. Because a lot of times we add in a lot of extra steps for our customers because we're trying to be fancy, right? We're trying to be cutting edge. We're trying to show this like, great process and flow that we've created for them. But more often than not, what we're doing is increasing frustration because we're making them jump through more hoops to experience our fanciness. Right? Most people don't care about fanciness. They just want to know if you deliver on your promise and you make it easy to do business with them. Right?
It's true.
So yeah, 100%. So the next one is one that I think a lot of people have started to hear more about, and that's your Net Promoter Score or your NPS. This one is a little bit more advocated for. It's talked about a lot more nowadays. And it's the level at which someone is willing to advocate for your business, how likely they are to refer you to a friend. So when you get that question from Pizza Hut or whatever, like clearly it's coming up on lunchtime. How likely are you to refer a friend to Pizza Hut or whatever the business might be? That's an NPS score. And when you see people marketing certain ratings on their website, like 94% of our customers refer us to their friends. That's a result they're getting from asking a question around the Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, I tend to talk about Net Promoter Scores in terms of more brand. It's not the CSAT score where it's specific to this program or that person.
Right.
It's not the experience, is it how much friction was there, but the brand, the awareness, the how much are you willing to talk about us in a positive light.
Right. And that one is so important because the people who are willing to refer you, and we'll talk about this in the next metric too, but the people who are willing to refer you and advocate for your business, even if they're done working with you, right? If you have a business that's more, I don't like using the term transactional, but sometimes they come to you for a very specific need. And once they've fulfilled that need, there truly isn't another thing for them because of the nature of the business, right? So, but that doesn't mean that people won't continue to support and advocate for you, right? Well, after they've done business with you. It's like, I bought a car 8 years ago. I continue to talk about that car, right? Even though I don't have it anymore, right? But people continue to advocate and support even after the transaction or the program is done. So that a high promoter score tells you you've got organic marketers out there bringing business to you. And the more organic marketing you have through those raving loyal fans, the less you need to invest on advertising and marketing, right? So the less now you need to worry about having a massive ad spend budget for Facebook and Instagram ads, because now you've got more people organically being brought into your business from those people who are talking about you. So your Net Promoter Score is definitely at the top of the list. The next one, this is what I call a twin metric, because we can look at it from two perspectives: client retention rate or client churn rate, client or customer being interchangeable here. So your retention rate, your CRR, is how many customers you keep period over period. So that could be month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, depending on what's most appropriate for your business model. So your client or your customer retention rate is much easier to measure in situations where you have that tangible number to be able to monitor. So like when you have a membership, when you have a group program where you can see growth and decline very easily, right? And now the twin metric to that is your customer churn rate. How many customers you're losing period over period. I advocate for customer retention rate. You can measure both because once you know your retention rate, you know your churn rate. They're twin metrics. However, I advocate for focusing on retention rate because you stay in a positive mindset when you focus on retention rate. If you focus on customer churn rate, you're always looking at like, oh man, we've lost another 10%. Oh man, our churn rate went down again or up again, right? Because that one's going to go up, which means bad. So when we focus on churn rate, we're always putting ourselves in a negative mindset of trying to focusing on the people we're losing rather than focusing more on the people we're retaining and what we're doing that's working so we can do more of it.
It's really interesting. And a lot of CEOs and business owners that I talk to, it's the same concept of the gap versus the gain.
Yes.
Really, that everyone is so focused on getting things done, moving the business forward, that we're full focused on the gap. How do I fill the gap? How do I fill the gap? Mm-hmm. But it's really important to remember, oh, did you also see the gain that you've made? Because that affects your mental picture going forward. So that's very interesting. I mean, retention is a nice, easy way to talk about it. How many clients did I retain last month, quarter, whatever, period.
Right. And when we're looking at retaining our clients, it's similar to having those, those raving fans who are out there advocating and for supporting us. Because if we're keeping our clients period over period, whatever that looks like, whether that's, a monthly membership or maybe it's a 6-month, coaching and strategy agreement where they renew for another 6 months, right? Over and over and over again. If we're retaining the customers we already have, it means we don't need to be out there as much spending money trying to find new customers to bring in, right? So the higher we're retaining our customers, as well as having people out there who are supporting and advocating for us, we get closer and closer to being a referral-based business. And referral-based businesses spend very little in terms of sales and marketing, in terms of ad spend and whatnot, right? So
I can confirm that we are 100% referral based.
Right? It is a beautiful thing. So when we focus on retention, we're just focusing on more of what we're already doing that's working, and we're just amplifying it further. So then the last one I like to advocate for, which is maybe seem a little bit unaligned with customer experience, I will explain that it is though, is your customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
And the reason I advocate for customer acquisition costs is that this is telling us how much we're having to spend to bring new people in. The more we're having to spend to bring new people in, it means we're not doing a great job of organic marketing efforts and we're not doing a great job of retention, right? So the more we're retaining clients, the more we have people out there doing organic marketing for us, the lower our customer acquisition costs can be, because we're not needing to foot out so much money to bring in new clients, new customers month over month over month, right? We can reduce our ad spend budget. We can reduce our sales and marketing budget in the sense of advertisement, right? And so client acquisition cost for those of us, well, I'm going to say those of us, those who prefer to do measurements more around profitability, budgeting, etc., who are more dollar focused, your customer acquisition cost can give you a massive insight into if your customer experience efforts are working or not working.
Do you measure when you do your calculation the paid side more than the organic side? Some of the organic stuff, just think back to even what we do, very relationship driven. There is a lot of time and effort, which you could say, well, here's my hourly rate. I don't track it. I certainly don't do that personally. I look at customer acquisition as more of a direct experience, a direct cost.
Yeah, I look at it more from the fact of especially with some of the businesses that I support, is more often than not, they're putting a fair amount of money towards ad spend in the digital space. And so looking more at if you've got this great group program for 20 people and it's $3,000 a person, but it's costing you $800 to bring in one person through ad spend. Yeah. It's not working, right? Like your profit margin on that actual seat is far less than it could be, right? So what efforts exist to help reduce that, right? And if my logic around this is that if we are doing things strongly around customer experience and increasing retention, increasing supporters, then we don't need to be relying on things like Facebook ads and Instagram ads to fill our programs. We can maybe have ad spend out there for awareness, and maybe every now and then one will come to us, But ideally, we're filling our next mastermind program simply through word of mouth and networking and conversations with people who are already being referred to us, right? Or
So
who's like the sister of a client we already have or
yes,
whatnot, right?
and it's hard for people to remember and realize that you don't have to go out and spend Google ads, YouTube ads, all of those pieces. You can actually build. I've worked with these clients. You build very successful businesses
Yep.
through literal word of mouth.
Yep.
It's not that
Yep.
bad. It's a lot of
No.
fun because they're focused on, did you get the value? Did the client come in and get the expectation met of whatever it was that they needed? We won't
Yeah.
even go into whether they're problem and solution aware, but
Right.
but they got the value because they worked with you for the period that you know they needed to work with you with in order to get the outcome that suited
Exactly.
their success metric. Yeah.
And I think unfortunately too, the whole, Facebook, Instagram ads, digital ad spend has become, this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the last video. It's become a bit of the norm and we see everybody else doing it. So we feel like we have to do it. So like we run almost zero ads in Scarlett and Co. And if we do, it's more experimental. It's more like, let's just try it. Let's just see, right? And it's an awareness piece than anything. And it might be retargeting people we've already worked with. Right. But I look at it more as like experimenting, but I'm not looking at it to fill my next program. Instead, I'm going out there and I'm networking with people. I'm going to events. I'm speaking at, digital summits or whatever, where I'm trying to make connections for the right people who I know I can help and support versus just expecting them to find me or expecting that I'm going to get, I'm going to build this $1 million company through ad spend. Right? People think that, yet they don't realize that the people who are out there clouding $1 million company are also spending $900,000 on ad spend.
Exactly.
They're $1 million company, great, but they actually only made $100,000 profit this year. They don't tell
Well, they
you
only made $100,000 post ad spend. Then they still had the delivery costs.
100%, right? But they don't talk about that. They clout that, I can teach you how to do this. I became $1 million company and I did it all through Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle there, right?
I love that. So the 5 metrics: CSAT, the customer experience survey,
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Thank you.
Yep.
Customer experience satisfaction, the NPS, Net Promoter Score, retention. I'm not going to talk about its twin, and then customer acquisition costs. So CAC, it's often called.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. So we have one more video coming up, Katrina, and I am very excited because we're going to talk about building that customer-centric culture during that video and that conversation. So we'll see everybody soon.
Excited.